Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Halloween, a very sensitive subject. I know a lot of people were, blinded by the glamorization of Halloween and where we celebrate, what are we celebrating? Honestly, nobody's celebrating anything besides going out and asking for free candy and dressing up as their favorite whatever. Most of them are scary, obviously. We use scary imagery during Halloween, and there's reasons behind all this. There's reasons why we wear masks, and there's reasons why this tradition has outlasted time, and it has pagan origins. I think it's hard to use the pagan debate as a way to, get a wider audience to accept the fact that this is coming from a demonic place. We could see this in the Bible with Jesus casting out demons. I want to get into the biblical side, and I also want to explain how that's transitioned throughout time into one of the biggest financial aspects of our life, besides Christmas and these certain holidays that we spend a lot of money and time on. Definitely Halloween is a big one. It's a big market. We literally, Spirit Halloween is a store that opens only during this season, and they make tons of money just by selling costumes, masks, and other demonic imagery that we just don't accept as demonic imagery. We just think it's cool and we think it's fun and whatever. I'm here to shed more light and come from a different angle. I know a lot of people will come strictly from the witchcraft side and try to explain why Halloween is demonic that way. I'm going to try to come from a different angle, sourcing the Bible, sourcing biblical text, and also just showing us, throughout history and different cultures, different tribes, they're all telling the same story. They're all kind of using the same imagery to invoke spirits. So let's get into it. All right. So first off, I kind of want to give a good background on where the demons even come from, where the story of these fallen angels and mating with humankind and mating with the women of humankind to create these giants and these men of renown. I'm going to play this video of Joe Rogan going over this idea from the book of Enoch, and I'm also going to be posting verses here and there just to kind of give clarification on who is Enoch, where is the book of Enoch in the Bible. Well, it's not in the Bible, and he'll kind of explain why, so we'll go ahead and show that.
Tell me why. I got into the book of Enoch recently, which is a book, an ancient religious book that was at one point in time included in the canon that was like the Bible and everything like that, but then they decided it was too crazy and they removed it from the Bible. But there's no debate about whether or not it was actually a religious text that coincided with the Bible, and it appears in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is the craziest shit. It's the craziest shit. And I'm getting AI I go, tell me what the nuttiest stuff. So I ran it through.
What do you say?
It's insanity. It's first of all, it's God's coming down and mating with women and creating this race called the Nephilim, the Watchers and the Nephilim. The Watchers descended to earth on Mount Hermon. They take human wives, teaching humanity forbidden knowledge, sorcery, astrology, metalworking, weapons, cosmetics, and enchantments. This is older than the New Testament, older than the Old Testament. Their giant children, the Nephilim, are described as monstrous beings who devour humans, animals, and even each other when food runs out. That sounds like us.
That's what I'm saying. That sounds present.
That sounds like us, and we are
not the physical warfare.
Right.
All right, so there we have it. Joe Rogan talking about it. So obviously this idea has gotten very mainstream, and I think the reality is these topics are being more mainstream because people want the truth, and seeking the truth is going to lead you to figure out that certain things were taken out of the Bible over time through human agendas. These things were created a long time ago and were documented a very long time ago, but over time they don't align with agendas for whoever is running the kingdoms at that time, just like King James Bible. The King James Bible changed some of the stuff. It took out the word tyrant because he was a king, obviously. He doesn't want tyrant to be in the Bible. This is just explaining the brief history of the Nephilim. So as we can see, the fallen angels came down that disobeyed God, and they fell for mankind women. And so they had these giants as children. And so over time, throughout the bloodline of genetic modification, trying to survive through cannibalism, we get depictions of them being these grotesque monsters. We get depictions of them being extremely horrifying. And then we get into the time of the Great Flood, where it destroyed the earth and it destroyed the physical bodies of the Nephilim, but the spirits were denied heaven and were left to roam the earth as disembodied spirits and beings seeking to possess mankind and to live vicariously through them. So now we'll talk about Jesus in the Bible casting out demons. There's various examples of this. In Mark chapter 9, Jesus healed and casted out demons from a child who would not speak and showed signs of seizures and epilepsy. That's how it would be described in our modern terminology. So he also healed a blind man that was mute. In all these instances, it's being described as being demonized and possessed. He anointed us. He anointed his disciples to do the same, to go out and cast demons, and to do the exact same thing that he was doing and walking in his footsteps. So he also told us to go out and create more disciples. So he wants us to be able to do the exact same thing. That's why we hear about exorcisms. That's why we hear about people being demonically possessed. There's a huge deliverance movement that is basically this. It's exorcisms. It's people getting demons casted out of them, and obviously there's levels to it. When you think of like exorcism, you see people climbing up the walls and floating like they do in The Exorcism of Emily Rose and other movies that depict this. On the smaller level, you become demonically possessed through alcohol, through various drugs, and we'll get into the drugs for sure, because that leads into the demons that are resembling clowns, and why we're inherently just scared of clowns for the most part. Some people aren't, but a lot of people are, and I think just relating on that fact will definitely open your eyes to what reality is when it comes to demons being referenced as clowns and invoking them through certain rituals and practices. All right, to get right into it, we're definitely able to see throughout history and throughout ancient Egypt, China, Rome, Greece, Japan, definitely tons of examples of clowns, clown-adjacent characters. So we'll just go over a few examples of these. I think a lot of these cultures are going to describe this ritual or these practices as being a way to invoke the spirits of their ancestors or good demons. So that is the case for some of these, but there's definitely examples of cultures that believe they are in fact invoking demons and evil entities. I think a very popular one we could start with is the Oni. We see that in tons of animes, tons of Japanese lore. An Oni is basically a yokai. A yokai is a way to distinguish rankings of demons, spirits, and supernatural entities. We can see that with the Tengu, which is another form of a yokai. That is a very distinct look, with the big nose, commonalities with the wide mouths, same as a clown, big giant grins on these creatures. A lot of these instances are going to sound very counteractive. You're trying to ask for protection by invoking these evil demonic spirits, which doesn't really make sense, but that's just what they practice. And, maybe they truly believe that they're doing it for good. Either way, gaining something from these spirits or these entities isn't necessarily a good thing. They're having some sort of control over you while giving you abilities. It's the same thing like when you're drunk. When we get wasted and you black out and people are trying to subdue you, or somebody's on meth or on very hard drugs, they almost have like a supernatural strength to them. So they're able to tap into this demon power in a sense. So that's why they're displayed as these, strong beings that wield power. And so when you're going to war and they wear these masks, that's what they're trying to gain from it. They're trying to get the power in order to defeat their enemies with that. Then we could also look into the Indian cultures. There's several that practice the same sorts of ancestral worships through embodying demons and entities that will invoke them during these trance-like dances and rituals through traditional drumming as well. We see this also with the Bali demon, which is known demonic spirit that is fighting against good, basically. And it's a story that they tell by using these demons to represent chaos, basically, and evil. They invoke these during rituals as well to tell the story. So we see this in huge cultures. I mean, there's billions of people in India that practice this type of stuff that we don't really even take into consideration when we're wearing masks and when we're displaying, evil and monsters basically during Halloween. We also start to see representations of what we definitely can tell looks like clowns by looking at some of these African and Native American indigenous cultures like the Igbo. They use this type of mask and body paint to communicate and invoke spirits from the spiritual world. And they do ritual performances, and we've seen this in plenty of movies that describe this. I know in Ace Ventura, there's a scene where he's fighting one of these guys that's dressed up very similar. Their only goal is to gain some sort of knowledge from their ancestors, is what they believe. But their ancestors all look like clowns at the same time. So there's definitely a lot of coincidences, if you'd like to say. I believe that they are just invoking demons without even knowing it. I think another thing we also don't take into consideration is that if, these demons that were Nephilim and died and their bodies were perished, their souls stayed on the land. They've been doing this forever. So if that's the case, then you got to understand that these demons are very smart. They're not stupid. They figured out a way to make things easier for them. They want people to do this. But obviously they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what's going on. They want you to do it unwillingly. We don't even take into consideration what we're doing because all we think is the marketing that's been developed over time. Let's look into a bit of the pop culture and get an understanding of why we accept it so much. And why we're not kind of scared of it anymore. All right, so to get right into the pop culture side of all of this, I want to start with Mr. Stephen King and the movie It, which I'm sure tons of people have seen this movie, maybe even read the book, but it's basically about the main antagonist is an ancient, evil, shape-shifting cosmic entity that preys on the fears of children. So he's not a serial killer. He's not just some psycho guy. It's literally a shape-shifting cosmic entity. They're just not saying verbatim that it is a demon. Stephen King himself is a very interesting individual. A lot of his stories, they're basically horror. Tons of books that have turned into movies. Recently, The Long Walk just came out. It's safe to say that Stephen King is very intrigued with the demonic and the evil and darkness. A lot of cocaine and alcohol-based writing so he could come up with these stories, and blacking out, not even remembering writing some of these books that he put out. He actually would go on to write some of these books really fast while being on speed, so it's kind of silly, but this was all drug induced for the most part. Eventually he did go on to get clean, but a lot of these huge stories that he created were in this time frame of the early 70s, which was a part of his huge alcoholic and drug fueled addictions. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which dismiss being demons but instead are also alien entities just like it. So they just so happen to be clowns as well that come down and terrorize humanity. Later on, they made video games, and in this video game, there was a skin for the characters that you could purchase. This one was actually a demon. It's literally a demon, and that's what it says. It's called a demon, and its name is Impy. Imp, which is a lesser demon or supernatural being. If you look at a lot of these old world magicians and these world renowned, world famous, super successful magicians, you look at all their posters, you start to see the imps everywhere. So a lot of people believe that they were exploiting these imps to get the magic that they were doing. And maybe some were and some weren't. They were doing practical stage magic, but there's probably a lot of instances where they were truly using demonic forces to be magicians and be super successful. Next up, we could talk about Art the Clown, the Terrifier. Pretty scary looking character, also a clown. He demonstrates supernatural abilities that's able to survive decapitation and can resurrect. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but originally he came from a short film called The Ninth Circle of Hell, where the worst of the worst demons reside. In the music industry, the Insane Clown Posse. So this is a group of people that make music about horrorcore. They were signed to Psychopathic Records in the very beginning of their career. But if you look at a lot of their lyrics, it's grotesque, it's disgusting, very demonic, talking about cannibalism, talking about all kinds of evil, but also just solely being associated to clowns and the clown imagery. These comic book artists, just like Stephen King, they also were heavily influenced by drug and alcohol, but another key note to them is a lot of them were occultists, and a lot of them truly practiced dark magic, and they say this verbatim. This is not stuff that is just made up. This is them talking to demons, like manifesting spirits and demons and talking to them, gaining knowledge to create and put out into the world to influence other people. And so they're turned into movies now, but back then these stories were created by an author, and then the author themselves was invoking spirits and demons to talk to them to get these ideas. And in the comic books, we see that with Superman, and we see that in the Batman series. Another one that I can reference right off the top is because I actually liked it when I was younger. I actually liked the cartoon of Spawn. So this character is somebody that died, went to hell, and gained the power of a demon. There's this character named the Violator, who is a clown. Just another example of a clown being a very, very demonic entity. A lot of old theater practices, they wore masks, and the idea behind wearing the mask was being able to have better storytelling abilities, because you were able to explore a spectrum of emotions that you wouldn't normally be able to do with your own face. So putting on this mask would give you a false sense of being able to become something greater than yourself, to display acting abilities that you don't normally have on your shown in movies as well. Like the movie The Mask literally is about a guy that finds this mask, and it grants him the ability to be this glamorous, out of this world type of character who can create and do whatever he wants. And it's like a power that's so amazing, and eventually realizes it's not worth it. They actually made 2 of these movies. I think another good example is Michael Myers. So he himself, the movie series is about him being this supernatural entity. He was cursed in one of the movies. The Druids, which Druids goes back to the paganism in Halloween. These Druids would do very extreme rituals and sacrifices around this time of the year, literally around Halloween time. Burning Man, where people go and travel for this event, but they don't even realize that the Burning Man literally was a burning man. You would have this structure that was created to sacrifice other humans.
Drug-inducing traveling to different realms, like taking DMT, or psilocybin, or LSD, or methamphetamines, take people to different realms. I mean, personally myself, I took a lot of mushrooms, and I've seen crazy stuff that at the time I didn't want to believe was this or that. But thinking back on it, like, a lot of that stuff was demonic, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. But I think a good example is these people that go out and take DMT. They see these clown clown-like gestures that are laughing at them and that are telling them, to lose their ego or whatnot. And there's also practices where they do it in groups, and the whole group will experience the same thing. So it's like as if they're stepping into a door and they're all witnessing the same stuff at the same time.
So how does that even make sense? There's also instances where schizophrenic people, there's a thing where two of them can experience the same thing at the same time together. And I don't think, we'll take this stuff serious, but this has been recorded. This is recorded instances where people are on the same drugs, experiencing the same stuff. So what else could that be? Because if it's all in our head, then why would they see the same thing we see? If it's just in our head, if it's just from our memories and it's just from our imagination. It's not just from our imagination. It's coming from a demonic force. It's coming from a different realm. You're tapping into a different world that we're not supposed to be there.
So this might not be enough to truly convince somebody, but there's a due diligence that you could do, because there's decades of research that goes into this that I was only able to scratch a small portion. There's people like Paul Stobbs who has really exposed this Nephilim and clown imagery, which are really the same thing. It's just over time the images change. They describe these beings as being pale and red hair, and the imagery of the red lips and the big giant smiles. We see this in a lot of our culture now when they describe these crazy titans like Attack on Titan, or just clowns in general. Why are we inherently just scared of clowns for the most part? Most people don't like them. Most people are terrified of them. There's phobias dedicated to clowns specifically. And I think that's because, my opinion, they're all demonic forces. These are all demon and spirit entities that we should not be associating with, that we should not be, even with good intentions, we should not be going down that road, because there's evidence to prove that it comes from an evil place. And I understand how hard this could be because of the world that we live in, but we're not supposed to live of this world. We can live in the world, but we don't need to live of the world. And that's a huge message. If you truly take it to heart, then you'll understand why it's important, not to celebrate these holidays, especially Halloween, where it's overtly demonic. The imagery is in your face. It's showing you what it is, but we're choosing not to believe it. We're choosing to keep joking about it and not give it any merit, but it's right there in our face. But I don't know what you think. Let me know what you think. I definitely have more to this. It wasn't all on my own research. I did spend a lot of time trying to figure out where I could help people see it in our pop culture, because I was a part of this, and I have the symbolisms in my own tattoos, because there was a point in time where I didn't care about that stuff, and I didn't care about possibly being demonically possessed or being demonized. But once I was able to stop being naive and understand where all this comes from, I'm not gonna go backwards. I'm not gonna try to justify it anymore. I'm gonna try to expose it, because I think it's important to expose evil. And that's the whole goal that I'm trying to do, is expose evil one step at a time, make it palatable to a wider audience that's not going to sit there for hours on end researching themselves, or listening to lectures about this type of stuff, because if you really wanted to, you could. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is all coming from a place of, I want y'all to be safe, and I want everybody to just be more knowledgeable on the facts that I can prove, and the opinions of a lot of people throughout history and throughout time. So y'all have a good one. Maybe next time we'll do Christmas. Maybe next time we'll talk about superheroes, because there's a lot that goes into those. I mean, Superman lives in a crystal palace, And I think crystals are definitely used for demonic purposes. It's very shiny. It holds a lot of power, and people believe that themselves already. So catch y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good one. Be safe. And remember that we need to expose this evil. We can't stand around and let it roam around forever, because who knows what's going to happen. At the end of the day, we got to love each other, and we got to take care of one another. Thank you. Peace.